earGROUND. New voices amplified. earGROUND. earGROUND. Keep your ears on the ground. earGROUND, the leading source for all creative and cultural content. You are locked into the Diaspora Connection on earGROUND.
Hello, greetings and welcome to earGROUND New Voices Amplified, the Diaspora Connection, where we get to speak to some of Africa's finest artists that are working and based in the diaspora, but are still deeply connected to their roots. And I'm going to be speaking to the girl who plays the African thumb piano, the mbira instrument. And she's amazing. She has done super awesome stuff for Zimbabwe and across the world. And she continues to represent her motherland, Zimbabwe. Her name is Piwai. Hi, Piwai. Welcome to earGROUND.
Hey, Pilot. How are you? Thank you.
No, I'm good. It's not the first time to have you on the program. We have you for the second time for the very reason that you are amazing, and we love to have you on the program. You've got such an amazing story and narrative that you're building musically for yourself and for Zimbabwe. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. You're so kind. Thank you.
Great.
And you're awesome too, by the way. So yeah, this is not the first time. We had our interview when you were like building your platform. So yes. I'm so excited about the work that you're doing and so proud of you, and glad to know that we still can connect and see each other grow.
Wow, great. And you know, I remember the first time that we met a couple of years back, like 5 years in Oakland, California. And the people that I met, that I was telling that I'm from Zimbabwe, I think about 2, 3, they constantly mentioned, oh, do you know Piwai? You know, and that made me realize how much of a significance you had made for not yourself, but also for Zimbabwe, that you reference point whenever somebody heard the name Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Take us through that journey. Did you see yourself going this far, like when we were still very young, growing up?
Wow, that's a very loaded question, right? With a loaded answer. So I'm going to try and be very short about it. The answer is, did I see myself going this far? Probably not. I don't want to lie to you. I mean, I know I was destined to do something amazing. I always pushed myself. That's one thing I know, regardless of what it is that I was getting myself into. And that whether it was in school, with my family, or whatever, you know, I'm just like this supercharged, you know, I'm like, so, you know,
interesting that you still recognize the totem.
Yeah. And I'm an Aquarian, so it's like there's always this thing of like there's this creative side of me. I'm always like outside the bubble, like looking inside into things and trying to work things for myself.
Yes.
So growing up, okay, let's sticking to just music. I don't think I saw myself on a global stage at the beginning. Yeah. I just like to sing, and I was always singing. I was always involved in something singing. I got into trouble. I think we've discussed it. I got into trouble with church when I was 8 years old. I snuck into the church choir. Wow. And my parents were very upset with me. But the choir director came to the house, talked to my dad, talked to my mom, and he was like, listen, this child, like, you know, whatever, you know, he was this amazing choir director, and he just got me started. And then I went to schools that really were big on music. I went to Monte Cassino Girls, and music was a daily part of what we did. And we sang. I sang in the small choir, in the Shona choir, in this choir. And then fast forward, coming to America, I joined church. I grew up in the church. So I was always singing whatever church I was going to, exploring my churches. I sang in their choirs at the university where I was going to university, choir. Yeah. But it wasn't until, I met a Congolese band, basically, that allowed me to, first of all, they wanted me to come in. I used to bartend at this place in Houston, Texas. And I met this gentleman, Anonzi Iman Legra from the Congo. And he was like, I know you sing, but I don't know what you sing, but I don't know where you're from. You dance. And I was like, dance, you know, I can dance, I can bust some moves, I don't know. And he was like, come join my band. I'm looking for female people, you know, to sing. And so these guys were like the guys that they used to work with people, Vana Lokasa Yambongo, Vana Shimita El De Griego. the Suku Stars, and this was the group that where people like Vanafali Ipupa were groomed under.
Oh, wow.
People that groomed people like Awilo Longomba came out of that whole group. And some of the people were the musicians were the ones that were, we had one of the drummer we had in that group was a drummer that trained Awilo Longomba. Awilo Longomba was a drummer first, right before he joined Katelate.
Yeah.
And so these were the people that I was surrounded with, and we used to bust rehearsals all day. Like it was like serious business, right? When these guys are rehearsing, when Congolese guys are rehearsing, it's like all day thing. And
serious business.
Serious business. A rehearsal is like one thing they take very, very serious. It's like it's an all day thing. And and drinking and smoking, none of that stuff. So it helped me, and it sort of like opened my eyes to the possibility of me being an artist, because growing up in Zimbabwe as girls, you're not really going to be a musician back then. It was like stereotyped a lot. I don't want to say the names because I don't want to reinforce the stereotypes. But then it opened up my eyes, because I was also coming from a place of trauma. I just had a serious accident back then that almost killed a couple of my friends, and I was the one driving. So it impacted me, and that whole notion of joining the music with the band and traveling with them and touring with them allowed me to heal. And so, because the community where I was so engrossed and sort of like engrossed in the African community coming together, right? Regardless of where you came from, people just always somehow associated me with this grounded cultural person, right? So that I would have the Nigerians coming to me, the people from Ghana, from Gambia, from Malawi, whatever, right? They were always like, oh, here's some music. Until this one day, this gentleman just brings me a CD. I think Mazwaya and Zimbira Zenarira. And he was like, Piwai, you've got to listen to this, right? So I listened to it. I was just mind blown by those guys. And the Wanga Chiriza, that song, which is basically Todzungaira, right? And it's the one in Goshu.
Yes, there's a lot of listening.
I was like, what is this? I was sold. And then I started having, so around the same time, there was like, I had this weird dream. And it was like all this stuff was happening at the same time. And that I got my first mbira. I met Cosmas Magaya who Duke University a few years ago, back then when I was starting out, and he was like, he messaged me on Facebook, and say, I know you've been looking for me. I'm like, did this man even know? I'd actually literally had a dream about him before I met him, and I didn't even know that I got the same last name,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I flew up to and flew up to Duke University, met with him. He handed me my first meter, coached me for hours on end. Shanzi, I'm gonna show you a way to get all of this material in the short amount of time that I'm spending with you, and it's gonna help you throughout your journey. And I'll be there as long as I'm around. I'll be there. And that's exactly what it did. And I had my first Mbira concert with Cosmas Magaya. We were built together at the Neurosciences Institute. So yeah, after that, I started seeing myself in a different light, because Mbira was brought to me. It's not something like I was like, oh, I wish to play like most people. Yes. Like, oh, I just want to learn this. It came to me. It was something that I think it has to do with spirituality and our ancestry, right? Mbira is handed down just like the Kora in West Africa is like handed down from generations to generations. Yes. And this was for me that handing down. And so with that, I found my grounding in music, and then before you know it, I was exposed not to the music, but to the person, the greatness of Chiwoniso. I didn't know about her, but I went to a bookstore in Berkeley. You've been to Berkeley, where you saw us perform. There was a show that was there, and someone just, because I was just in the music scene all the time. It doesn't matter if it was music from wherever it was from. I was there. I just was the life of the music, and somehow. One day I'm at this bookstore in Berkeley, and guess who was playing? Chiwoniso.
Wow.
I'd never heard of her. I never talked to her. Maybe I'd seen her song, yeah, Zimbabwe, but the connection never kind of happened, right?
Yes.
And I knew some of the music from her family, you know, Darairi Zambira,
Yes,
but I didn't know who she was. And I was in the bookstore in the back, just minding my own business. And she just says, hey, I know you're Zimbabwean. She comes and she just kisses me right on the lips. I'm like, whoa, girl. And it was just like, I know you're Zimbabwean. I know you're a musician. That's how I met Chiwoniso.
Wow.
And Chiwoniso was never an introduction. It was just that serendipitous meetup that I was just sitting there in the back of because the reason why I was there was Anga, she had hired a Congolese guitarist. So like I said, I was in the Congolese music scene.
Yes.
So I knew a lot of the musicians. I was in the Nigerian music scene. I knew a lot of the musicians. I was in the Cuban music scene, so I knew a lot of the musicians. So two of the musicians who she booked for that gig were in there. So that's why I was there. I didn't even know who she was. They were like, oh, just come. We're just playing with some girl from Africa. We don't know who she is. I'm like, let's go check it out. So the guitarist is the one that I knew because he was part of Sukustas. He was part of Sukustas, and it was just a world of connectivity, and that's how it all started. And so this is where I saw myself and like, wow. And she opened up my eyes, really. So
wow. You know, this is quite a moving story. I mean, I didn't know that whole chapter, and now it seems everything was predestined. Fast forward, you get to be featured on a Grammy-winning project.
Yes.
You're actually one of
who would have known?
Very few, if not 3-4 Zimbabweans that have been closer to a Grammy, and you were featured on a winning project.
Yes. Who would have known? So this happened. It's crazy how it all happened. So you know, I live in California, and I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we call it the Bay Area or the Yay Area. So I just moved back to Oakland. You know, for me, I moved there because this is the time I'm pushing forward with my music. It was like a very intentional act of faith. And I was like, I moved to the Bay Area because what's beautiful about this area is that, you know, you can be the smallest artist out there, but if you know how to motivate people and bring them to your show, you can grow, you can have a following. And even if it's just 5 people coming to your show, it's a big deal because those 5 people, they love you there. And it's the one place where you get support for pretty much anything. And so that's why I came back, because I knew I was going to find myself. I had done jazz school. I trained vocal in jazz school in Berkeley, which is close to Oakland. And so for me, musically as an artist, Oakland was home, that's where it was. And I know during that time, there was like bad rap about violence in Oakland, which it was there, didn't affect me. Oakland is one of the places that is artist rich. There's a lot of artists doing everything. And I know everybody that I know is, and it doesn't matter if they're a doctor or a professor somewhere or the nurse next door, like, you know, there's a group known as the Chigamba family here. Their group consists of professors and nurses and doctors in there. So everybody that I know has that kind of hustle. This is the place where, like, I call it the hustle capital of the world, because you know how to do your grind, you get it done. And it happened. People support you. People come and support you for whatever reason, right? And so that's the beautiful. So I was returning. And then I was just minding my own business on the street. I met this gentleman. He was like, I know you're looking all professional. It's like after 5, you're probably coming back from work, but there's one thing you can't deny. I can't deny. You're a musician. You're an artist. And I'm like, okay. So he was like, I have a studio over here. I'm like, oh my God, do you have a studio? So turns out it was the guy who has the studio I've been trying to go to for events. They used to throw these things called Third Fridays, or every Friday, where they did kind of like an open mic situation and just like bringing artists together, have fun, talk, discuss, showcase. And I could never make it to that event, and until I met the person I was putting it together. And he was like, okay, come through and sit in tomorrow. I'm going to be playing at the next one. I want you to sit in. So sitting in, for those who don't know, it's you know, when you're a female vocalist, you come in, there's a band playing, and they call you for like 1 or 2 songs. You do 1 or 2 songs. There's no rehearsal involved. It's just the musicians know what they're doing. You tell them, oh, I play in this key, I want to do the song. They may not even have the song, but for me, I was more into my African music, so chances are like nobody really knew what I was doing. I just took my mbira and my drums and my osho, went there, set in. He was playing his blues, and I was like, okay, blues, played the mbira right behind him, mixed it. I'm like, we'll make this happen. And so since then, it was like, oh my God. So we kept working together until one day he calls me. He's like, hey, Piwai. So the funny thing is, his recording studio was just a block away from my house. So he just called me. He's like, Piwai, one night he calls me like, come in the studio, bring all your interesting and weird instruments and play something. So I went, I was doing clapping, mbira, hosho, drumming, whatever. I don't know how many songs I played on, but he just kept recording and recording one song after the other. I got to learn his writing process, his recording process. And a few months later, probably almost a year, he's like, oh, we just got nominated for the Grammy. I'm like, no way. Wow. Which song? He's like, well, pretty much all the stuff that you played on is on The Last Days of Oakland. And before you know it, it was pretty huge. And before that, this guy had won, another Fantastic Negrito. His name is Fantastic Negrito. Yes. He had just won the Tiny Desk concert. And so in the US, there's a radio station called NPR, National Public Radio.
Yes.
They do this competition called Tiny Desk Concert, where, if you're a band or an artist, you have to have a small desk.
Yes.
So whatever you do, you present it behind a tiny desk, kind of like the one in the picture here. Whatever you do. So he did one. He was the one that won. I think he won the first one. So he just took off from there. But then this guy is very smart. He's one of the smartest musicians I know. He's not after fame. He's about the work, the hustle, right? And is very humble person, right? So just because you've made it doesn't make you like, he's not all about like, oh, wearing fancy things and fancy cars and all of that. It's all about the hustle, like, right? We are real people, grounded. So that's what it is. And because I'm part of his family, he has a label called Black Boy Universe. He calls it the family of freaks. This is a family of people who are just who they are and could care less what the world and what people think about what we do. And, he won the Grammy and he just brought us all along. So Look at me, I'm from Zimbabwe. When you hear about Zimbabwe, it's like, whatever, the politics in Zimbabwe, the economic situation in Zimbabwe, you would not think of someone like me next to it, right? So it was very humbling to be a part of his, I'm still a part of his family, right? Like in the Black Boy universe, and going to the Grammys as the only female participant on that specific album, as a live musician, that is. And then also with the team that went to the Grammys, it was quite an amazing experience, and just being there, it was nerve-wracking, seeing all those stars that you never dreamt you'd ever be around, And
now you're in the same space, you're standing there.
You're in the same space. Like, I'm like, Lady Gaga's right there,
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow, congratulations. I mean, it's a major. It's recorded as one of the very few, Grammy accolades or mentions for with the Zimbabwean featured, so thank you so much for putting us on the map, and I hope that our nation gets to appreciate and celebrate that, because an apple doesn't fall far away from the tree. It means there's more that's coming your way, and also for the country.
Proudly Zimbabwean, by the way. Proudly Zimbabwean. Yeah.
Right. And I remember, you used to use Piwai Wekwarara. You dropped Wekwarara.
No, so the funny thing is, Piwai Wekwarara is my Facebook name. Basically, so I was one of the first few adopters before Facebook became a thing. That was just my thing. It was because, as you know, I when you first met me, and I still do, I'm also a scientist. So it's like a way to separate things.
Okay.
Make sure you focus. So I didn't want to put my last name out there, and so
then
I was like, well, I'm from Harare.
I'm
from Harare, so hey, It's like if you're into fashion, I like fashion. So there's like a woman called Dion von Furstenberg. You know, she's like she makes these dresses. You know, von Furstenberg means from Furstenberg. It's not that's not her last name. So for me, I was like, because it was sort of like a joke, because I took it from a song I'd done a collaboration with some folks from Ivory Coast, and they were like, say something about where you're from so that people actually know that you're from this place. So I was like, and then I just took that line.
Which is powerful, because I was listening to a Davido interview at one time, and he says, look, man, if there's something about us Nigerian artists is that some of the lines, places that you hear us shout out in our songs, to, you know, Port Harcourt, Abuja, Lagos, and so forth, we have a connection, a very personal connection to those places. Sometimes it's places where we are raised from, and we have to constantly appreciate where we come from. And you have done that. I mean, I know people that have made it musically or creative-wise that come from Zimbabwe and are somehow shy, you know, to actually be identified, you know, as Zimbabwean, and you've never been shy to actually identify as a Zimbabwean and celebrate that. Thank you so much.
And thank you. And that's a shame, because we as Zimbabweans, we have a beautiful heritage, and it is our duty to protect that heritage.
Great. Wow. And talking about the heritage, I mean, you're building a very, you know, impressive catalog. You've dropped, you know, a couple of projects before, but this year you opened up the year with something amazing, something beautiful, which is called Amalevo, and it features an artist who's based in Zimbabwe. And I loved just the collaboration between an artist in the diaspora and an artist in Zimbabwe. Why? Because this bridge for a long time has been missing. You know, there's been a bit of a disconnect, and now we start to see this cross-pollination. Before we talk about the actual content of the song, what connected you and Prosper together?
Well, first of all, Jazz Prosper is the artist in question, and an amazing young Zimbabwean musician. He's based in Harare. And I didn't even know about him, but as we were trying to build my catalog, this was a few years ago, I bumped into some music, was just researching and trying to look for that next producer to help me to get to work with. But I was looking specifically for a Zimbabwean producer. That was basically the bottom line, was I needed a Zimbabwean producer. Found him. I'm hesitant to mention their name, but I will just mention them anyway. I found them in Brian Soko. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, so with that, there was a project that was in the making. And that is how, essentially, that's the connection with Jazz Prosper. He was working under the auspices of, or he still does work under the auspices of Anashe Media. So that's the connection. And I'm gonna get into trouble because of our agreements and stuff. You know, I want to give credit where it belongs, right?
True,
like
true.
The song, there was a lot of people involved, and I want to give thanks to them, partly because they're Zimbabwean and they're flying our flag out high as well in their own way. And so Jazz Prosper, we were trying to get a verse. First, we were trying to get a verse from someone in Africa. First, we went to South Africa. And at the time, I was fighting with my agency, and I was like, that was the time the first xenophobia in South Africa happened. And so, because I'm not a political person, but I'm a zeitgeist commentator in my music. There is things that I comment about. You may not hear them unless if you're really careful. But I was so mad because I worked in the South African community for a long time. I used to have the embassies from South Africa contact me to perform and do all this stuff. But there was xenophobia in South Africa at the time. And my brother's friend was killed in that first xenophobia. So I had boycotted South Africa at the time because of that. So they were trying to push me to work with South African artists. And I'm like, I don't want to do that right now because it's very personal for me. Because unless if South Africa changes its rhetoric towards other Africans, right? I'm a Pan-Africanist. So I didn't want to be associated with that. So I was like, give me a Zimbabwean. So we tried. We didn't know at the time, unfortunately, I didn't have a connection. I tried over the years when I came home to to try and work with a few artists. I don't want to mention their names because they literally rolled their eyes when I approached them. You know, this was like the year Chiwoniso passed away, and she was like, you know, come to my show and, you know, maybe connect with this person, and I just written a couple songs for Chi. Yeah, so flash news flash, I did write one song for her, a couple songs for her. So they were like, you know, we don't know anybody in Zimbabwe yet, so we had to go and research Zimbabwean artists. And we started finding out different people. And then because we're talking to this group, the Sokos, and they were like, oh, you know what, let's get this guy. So they sent us about 2 or 3 guys, you know, they tried their voices on there. One of them was actually a very big musician in Zimbabwe, not Japresa, by the way, but another big musician there. But it just didn't jive. There was no connection. The music we didn't find. But when jazz was put on the record, we're like, who's this guy? Fine, let's do it. I'm down for it. I don't know him. I like the way, I like his angle. And so that's how I started to know about Diaspora. So.
Wow, it's a beautiful song that you guys made there. And the connection is seamless, as if you guys had been, you know, like in touch for such a long time. And the text, our level, what was the message? What was the intention in the composition?
I think the intention was really like you said earlier, was to foster that collaboration between Zimbabwean artists, right? Because prior to that, I had done a tour with a Kenyan female artist, and I was yearning to do that with someone who understood me musically and vocally and everything. And so my level is really, it's so many, it's different levels of things happening. So there's one, my level, inspiration really behind it was one, it was just based on the beat itself, you know, the beat that went into it. We wanted to make it modern, and we wanted to make it also reflect the nuances of Africa and how it'll fit in. And then we were like, okay, both me and the producer, I can sing in 12 different languages, and we both had the commonality of Zulu, Shona, and English. So we were like, okay, let's have Zulu, Shona, and English in there. So we co-wrote the song together in the studio. We literally I had to change my flights that day. We only had a few hours in the studio. That song came out of a few hours in the studio, not even like a day, like a few hours, literally. And then we were going through the web, you know, the internets and the interwebs, and we're trying to look for something to inspire us to come up with a comfort song. So like, okay, there's the elements of the language, the beat, and then we wanted to find out something that was happening in Africa that we were not aware of. So we found this video of some ridiculous pastor from Zimbabwe, who was doing this. We just thought it was the weirdest thing, like, you know, you're preaching the gospel of prosperity, and then you have this ridiculousness of a life of a hustler, more like a pimp, really. And we thought, like, and you know, being in California, I see pimps all the time, and we're like, I don't know, I'm like, listen. So we just thought that was ridiculous. And so basically what in that video basically was like, okay, this person came from nothing and now they have big and all that stuff. And that was the whole premise. And we're like, and then we heard the word level, and we're like, that's it, that's the song, my level. It's about my level. So my level talks about the ridiculousness of going from this to that, but yet, you know, just because you've made it doesn't mean you have to be absurd and ridiculous in life. Stay grounded. And then the other part is just being happy, right? Like, because we say, I just want to let go. It's about letting go. And Ziawa Namhlanje is like, I'm going to get drunk today, and then tomorrow I'm going to wake up and go to church, which most of us do. I mean, I don't do that, but most people do. I'm not going to name names.
True.
But people party on Friday, Saturday, Sunday
they go to church. Yeah.
Just saying.
Well done. Beautiful.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. So we're just going to take a small break, and we're coming right after this.
I just want to let go, because I need the feeling. By the time of my life is all the best that you will. Recover on Sunday. See how when I'm slunging. Oza Friday. Oza Friday.
So welcome back. The platform is the Diaspora Connection here on earGROUND, and it's very, very exciting today. As I'm speaking to none other than Piwai, they're amazing. She's got a new song featuring Prosper Jazz, which is called My Level, and it's a beautiful song. It's got a video, so you need to check it out on YouTube. We managed to play you just a snippet there, but we're going to be talking about the future and what she's currently working on. What's currently, in your plate right now? What are you working on?
Right now, what I'm working on is releasing a catalog of music that I already have recorded, that I've already worked on, including My Level, which we just dropped January 14th. So we're a month out. And we're currently getting ready to release my album, which I released in part, in the African Turquoise. I think I sent you the material, but if you want to share it. And so African Turquoise is accompanied by a book, a transcription of the music, to music and lyrics to the album for every one of those 10 songs on that album. 3 of those songs were already out on volume 1. So now we'll be going for volume 2 and volume 3, which I call the complete collection. So basically that's what's next. And then also be releasing, working on a project in the studio. It's still happening. We're still kind of like in the planning phase. It's called Radio Africa. And so that's the next project. So this one, I'm calling it, if I don't do something amazing in this life, this is the one project I want to do something amazing on. And I'm looking forward to working with different people. I'm still looking for other folks to be on the project. But it's going to be very, I think this, for me, I thought African Turquoise was my baby, but Radio Africa is the baby for me. So maybe I might say that for a few, it's like a mother who has like children, oh, this is the baby.
This is the baby, and then another one comes. This is the one.
Yeah, but this is, we're going to put a lot into it. And I'm looking forward to how it's going to transpire. So those are the next projects.
Wow. And I mean, I noticed something when I was looking through your website, and your hair and your preferred color, and then the title of your album, your forthcoming album, African Turquoise. Is that deliberate? The color, is it something that is dear to your heart, and what's the meaning behind?
So African Turquoise is sort of like, it's the journey. That's basically what it is. And it was a journey, and I wanted to brand my journey, my musical journey, my artistic journey. And it allows me to stay grounded and to keep consistent and to consistently grow year after year and surprise myself. So yeah, I like to keep certain elements the same. So my branding for me is key, and I've tried to be consistent. It's not the best, it's not perfect, but I represent my brand through and through, from, turquoise. Turquoise for me, the African turquoise, it's a gem that's that comes out of Africa. And it supposedly changes color depending on who the wearer, right? So I took that in the literal sense, because for me, my life changed, not necessarily changed, but it reflects, or my music reflects the environment that I've been in, that I'm currently in, that I will be in. So it's almost like that's the elements of the the color itself. Because there's turquoise is the only color that changes its hues depending on how the sun shines, right? So there's different shades of turquoise. I'm not shady, but I'm just saying, it's like, we go from sad, happy, to feeling love, to feeling hate, to feeling super emotional. We're not a one-sided or monolith of feelings and things. We're very interesting people, and we express ourselves at different levels, and that's exactly what my brand is about.
And before we close off, I mean, you mentioned your brand there, and when I look at your brand, it presents so many layers of, different elements. You're not just a musician, but you also bring in the fashion component to your brand. And, you've got that online store, and I see, the different products that you're offering. And a lot of artists, back home and also elsewhere, the struggle is always how to present their brand as a business that has different revenue streams, but still being able to pursue their passion in music. And for you, how has that been, and what is your advice to somebody who's possibly watching right now who would want to follow suit?
Well, follow suit, good luck. But I would say my advice is be yourself. I say a lot of people, a lot of artists, I'm speaking specifically about artists, there's that notion called wannabe. In this area where I live, we also have a lot of wannabes, wannabe artists. Be yourself. If you want to be an artist, that means you're copying somebody else. Stay true to yourself. And if you're doing the artist thing, sometimes music, there are periods when it's dry, you're not making money. Get creative. I like fashion. So from early on, I decided, so if you look at my brand, my Piwai brand and my online business, Negrito, it's the same brand, right? They're just different layers of each other. Same logo, different names. It's like, it's intentional because I want to keep it consistent. That's where I draw my fashions from. I make my own clothing, right? I dress myself up. If I'm having, like, I'm not going to be buying that. Even when I went to the Grammys, I literally designed the dress that I wore to the Grammys and had an Eritrean designer work with me to bring it up because I wanted to mix elements of the North and the East and the South. And so I was wearing an Eritrean inspired fabric, they call it the tellet fabric. So I'm into textiles, the tellet fabric, because I'm all about representing the different shades of the different elements of Africa. So I'm still staying true to who I am. So anybody that's out there, whatever business you want to do, whether, it doesn't have to be fashion, right? It could be something completely different. Keep it consistent, keep it real, let it be something that you're passionate about, right? And be honest with yourself, be honest with the people that you work with. And, things happen, I've made a lot of mistakes trying to do all of this, but I've always corrected myself. There's that self-correcting and accepting criticism from outside and not trying to get into scuffles. And I noticed that a lot of Zimbabwean artists back on the ground, I hear all this internet noise where people are fighting this over that, and there's all this gossip going. And I'm like, you know what? I'm staying in my lane, and that's where I stay in your lane. That's my advice. Stay in your lane. Do you and grow. Don't try to be a wannabe. Just be you and grow. And if someone says something to you, hey, we're all in this together. We're all artists at the end of the day. We can try and compete. I don't compete. I compete with myself. I try to be better than the thing that I was last year. I'm not trying to be like so and so, because the moment I start being a wannabe, I've lost the core of who I am. Wow. So, yeah.
That is deep, profound, and thank you so much for sharing that wisdom. I hope those that are watching and those that will watch later will gain something from this. And thank you so much. I know you are busy. You have your 9 to 5, but at the same time, still pursuing your passion and your love for music, which is spreading across the world. Thank you so much, Piwai.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me here.
You're most welcome.
And then congratulations on the NAMA nominations. We're rooting for you. Let us know how we can vote to make sure that you win.
Thank you
team
so much.
Plot Markup, team earGROUND.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we definitely hope that on Saturday we're gonna win. But if we don't, the nomination for us is already like great recognition. And thank you so much, Piwai, for being part of that journey, because we spoke to you 2-3 years ago when we were still starting out. So I think, for us, anyone who believed in us when we were starting out saw the vision, and you were the people that watered it and grew it until today, what it is starting to become. So thank you so much.
All you, Plot. It is all you. I am truly a believer of you and what you
Thank
do.
you so much.
And you are doing a lot of things that a lot of Zimbabweans should be doing. People who sit in their couches wherever they are in the diaspora and talk smack about people doing their work. You're one of those people doing that. And I commend you, and I wish each and every Zimbabwean was proud of who they are, wherever they are, and represented. And you are a trailblazer.
Thank you so much. I'm deeply humbled. Wow, thank you so much. I've been speaking there to Piwai. She's an amazing artist, Zimbabwean artist, who's based in Auckland, in the States, in California, and she's making music for the world. Right now, she's got a new project which is called Levels, which features an artist who's from Zimbabwe, based in Zimbabwe, Prosper Jazz, who's an amazing, amazing artist. So if you listen to the project, you definitely love it. So check it out. Follow her on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, Piwai Music, and you'll be able to experience some amazing music from her old catalog, new catalog. She promises us some amazing works that are coming in. Her album, African Turquoise, is coming through, and also she's got another project after that. Until next time, remember, earGROUND, keep it locked. I'm out.
You are locked into the Diaspora Connection on earGROUND.